Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. Life with a spinal cord injury is a journey of adaptation, resilience, and determination. Every day presents new challenges, from mobility adjustments to managing health and independence. Depending on the level of injury, some may use wheelchairs, braces, or assistive devices, while others may focus on rehabilitation and regaining movement. Here are a series of paraplegic lady video uploaded previously, sharing her daily life activities as an individual living with spinal cord injury. Hello. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. Transferring as a paraplegic depends on strength, technique, and the level of assistance or adaptive equipment available. Paraplegic lady share her transfer techniques based on strength, mobility, and the environment.
I am not wheelchair bound. In fact, my neighbor says I'm, quote, the goingest person she's ever seen. There's a term called transfer, which describes the process of moving from one position or place to the next. And I make transfers in and out of my wheelchair all day. I'm not literally stuck to my wheelchair. And this video will show all the transfers I make in a single day. I wake up and go from my bed to my wheelchair, then to the toilet and back to the bed to do some work, but I ended up forgetting my laptop, so I had to get back up and get that. It gets a little repetitive, so I'll just keep the tally at the top of the screen, but I also ended up getting into the floor to work on a new Halloween wheel cover design for my website. I got on the floor to seal it and to cut this part out, and this was the final product. So I had to get back up into my wheelchair to get ready for an apartment tour, and it ended up being a bust, but I also needed to drop my car off for an inspection. In total, it ended up being over 20 transfers, but even you, if you're able-bodied, make transfers all day. Going from laying to sitting in the morning and sitting to standing from your bed, those are transfers. You just might not realize it because it's second nature. But to achieve the same end product, disabled people might need to plan more intentionally and take more energy.
She also gives some insight about her spinal cord injury journey.
I was paralyzed nearly 4 years ago, and there's this stereotype in movies where characters lose their spouse, friends, or family after being paralyzed. I've heard many personal stories of this happening to people after suddenly becoming disabled, and it even happened to me somewhat. My boyfriend had told me that one of his coworkers at the time was encouraging him to cheat on me since we probably weren't going to be close anymore. I also never returned to high school after my injury, and honestly didn't leave the house except for doctor's appointments, which isn't exactly helpful for keeping friends either. I also know some people were uncomfortable with me after I started posting about my experiences and perspective online. So I definitely can relate somewhat to that stereotype, as a lot of people do. This injury can be so isolating socially and emotionally because of physical barriers or assumptions. It changes every aspect of your life, but it also shows who is willing to grow and adapt to life with you. So if you're currently going through something similar, it does suck, but it also gets better with time.
Staying positive while living with a spinal cord injury can be challenging, but many people find ways to build resilience and maintain a fulfilling life. She share how she stay positive also.
A lot of people ask how I stay positive being paralyzed, which is a bit of a loaded question because newly injured Tara would have answered very differently than today's version of me nearly 4 years later. So it's clearly a very valid question, and in short, there is life after something traumatic and life-altering such as a spinal cord injury. You just might need time and assistance to find the resilience needed to heal enough to live it. Effort is often put in to recover physically, but not psychologically, and with 18,000 people newly paralyzed every year in the US, a demand for accessible mental health services is created. The ACT-SCI study offers a telehealth program for people with SCI to aid in healing the invisible scars and emotional impact that a lot of us end up having. By participating in 8 weekly virtual sessions and completing 3 questionnaires, eligible participants are also awarded $245 in compensation. See below for more details about how you could participate in this study and maybe even experience post-traumatic growth along the way.
Taking time out with paraplegic friends as a community in an open question session.
Do you work?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I do work.
I do.
I do.
I do.
What do you do for work?
I'm a dentist. I'm actually a professor of molecular biology, and I'm also on Team USA on the U.S. women's sled hockey team.
You're a Paralympian.
Throw that in there, a couple gold medals.
I run a nonprofit. I am the executive director of the Wheel With Me Foundation, and outside of that, I am a traveling consultant that helps out businesses in the disability scene.
I work as an advocacy coordinator for an independent living center in Wisconsin.
My main job is Delta Airlines as a customer service representative. But I'm also a licensed commercial drone pilot with my own company, our LLC. I work for a wheelchair manufacturer as a sales rep.
Well, I work for myself in real estate, small business, and lately I've been doing a lot of innovation, creating products, not necessarily to sell, but so that people can become aware of it. And then also I do some nonprofit stuff.
I'm a lady of the night. I'm just kidding. Oh my god. Yes or no? Yes, I do work. I work full-time for WellSpect. It's a bowel bladder management company. I also own a business.
Let's keep supporting the spinal cord injury community. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. Considering being an individual living with spinal cord injury, having to stay in an accessible hotel room must have some features that ensure comfort, safety, and ease of mobility for someone been confined to wheelchair. Paraplegic lady share her experience in an accessible hotel room where she shared some highlight and features accessibility. Here are some of her highlights.
I'm in a wheelchair, and this is an accessible hotel room. Checking in, the door was pretty heavy without an automatic door opener, but that's usually typical of hotels. The room itself was super spacious and pretty with a waterside view of downtown Norfolk. The bed was low enough to make it relatively even to my wheelchair for transfers, but it's really the bathroom that makes or breaks an accessible hotel room. Again, it was really big, including the doorway, which made maneuvering in a wheelchair easy. And there was a roll under sink so my legs don't get in the way while I'm trying to wash my hands or face, but unfortunately the mirror is set too high on the wall to see myself in it, and the toilet is set too close to one side of the wall. Some of you should know by now that I get dressed in the toilet by scooting back and forth, so putting a toilet that close means I can't lean over on that side. And clearly the toilet seat needed to be tightened because it was moving a lot during transfers. I could have called maintenance about it, but I was just too busy. There was a shower seat built in, which is awesome, but like many detachable shower heads, it was put up too high for wheelchair users to reach. So I waited for someone else to adjust it down for me. Overall, the devil is in the details when it comes to accessibility, including hotel rooms. This is a really nice hotel room with just some minor things that could be fixed if the hotel so choose. I would stay again though.
Traveling as a paraplegic in a wheelchair as a tourist comes with unique challenges, but it also brings rewarding experiences. It requires extra planning and patience, but it's absolutely worth it. From learning to adapt, advocate for better accessibility, and embrace the adventure. There's nothing quite like discovering new places, even if it means rolling over a few bumps along the way. She continues by sharing her tourist experience in her city as a wheelchair user.
I'm in a wheelchair, and this is how I'm going to spend the weekend being a tourist in my own city. This is Mermaid City, aka Norfolk, Virginia, and I got a hotel room downtown to show you around from my perspective. On day one, I went to the Nauticus Naval Museum across the street. I got on the top level of the USS Wisconsin battleship using a ramp, and since this is the largest naval base in the world, there was tons of local naval history inside too. And since downtown is so walkable, we went over to Hell's Kitchen where I got a crab cake sandwich. For breakfast the next day, we walked along the river to a coffee shop to get quiche and a PSL. And after that, we drove a few minutes to the Chrysler Museum of Art where I used their wheelchair lift to access their indoor galleries. And my favorite was actually this outdoor garden outside to sit in though. I also met my friend to go kayaking using the downtown accessible kayak launch, which is my favorite go-to kayaking location. We returned to the hotel after that to grab dinner inside the building at this beautiful restaurant, and to end the night, we walked over to take a sunset sailing boat tour. Help was available to go up and down the steep boat ramp with 2 steps at the end, and the crew was incredibly kind and accommodating. There was even live music, and it was definitely my favorite thing I did this weekend. On the last day, we got breakfast at the Bird, and we went to the Virginia Zoo.
I saw online that if you have a disability, you and a companion can get in for free. Okay, we're good? Okay, thank you.
As you heard, it is free admission if you are disabled, which is awesome since some of the ramps can be steep and tiring if you don't have a power assist. I brought mine though, and we had a great time seeing all the animals. Overall, I hope that in trying new things, I could share accessible destinations for any disabled travelers interested in my home city.
Using the bathroom as a paraplegic requires planning, adaptive techniques, and sometimes assistive devices to maintain independence and comfort. She further explained how she get to navigate through seamlessly to get her bowel done independently.
Yes, since I'm paralyzed, I have to use the bathroom differently, and that includes number 1 and 2. I'm aware of how TMI this might be, but because I don't censor myself, here's your final warning before I give the tutorial. My brain can't tell my body when to go, so I have to go on a scheduled routine. For me, that's every other night using the system called the Parastene. It's basically a fancy enema for people like me that have no worky bowel. It looks crazy, it is crazy, and this is how how it works. Step 1, fill the bag with water, and everyone's favorite, you can add any medications you need to the water and then hook up all the tubing. The disposable catheter is self-lubricating when water's added. You just need to wait a few minutes, but once that's done, you can get started. I get on the toilet by putting one hand on the frame of my wheelchair and the other on the toilet seat. And then I pivot over there, easy peasy lemon squeezy. These are crucial supplies you'll need. You start by inserting the catheter you know where and inflating the balloon a little bit. That's what makes the enema fancy. Then you can switch the setting onto the water setting to start pumping water in, and you can choose the amount that you need. When you're ready, you can deflate the balloon and take it out. And obviously I won't be reusing that part, so I take it off and throw that away along with the glove that I use just in case. And then it's cleanup time, very demure, very mindful. You can dump out all the water you didn't use and then store that away.
Let's keep supporting the spinal cord injury community. Thank you. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. A paraplegic can actively participate in various sports, demonstrating strength, resilience, and determination. Adaptive sports provide numerous opportunities for individuals with paraplegia to stay active, competitive, and engaged in physical activities. Engaging in sports does not only promote physical health but also boost confidence, social interaction, and mental well-being. A paraplegic lady in sports proves that determination and adaptability can break barriers, leading to an active and fulfilling life. Let's see more of her adaptive sports activities.
This is me before the race. This is my new custom racing wheelchair. It's a fixed frame, so it's pretty lightweight despite how it looks when I lifted it just for fun. It's made to my specific measurements, so it's smaller than my old borrowed racing wheelchair. Since there's no extra space, it's been a little harder getting in and out, but that also means that I don't bruise the inside of my arms anymore. Personally, I got this chair through a full grant from Challenged Athletes Foundation. This exact racing wheelchair by Top End is $5,000, which is pretty unattainable usually. But grants like Challenged Athletes, Cali Brush, and High Fives allow people the chance to get the equipment they need to participate in a bunch of different sports with qualifying disabilities. I highly recommend looking into them, especially for people with spinal cord injuries. And keep an eye out for more content with the bowling ball, aka my new racing wheelchair, as I prepare for my next race. Sports are for everyone. As someone that is paralyzed, it was a little intimidating to get into sports after my injury. But once I did, it was literally life-changing. This is a new court I'm going to after moving, which I found on playtennis.com. Obviously, my setup to play tennis is different than the typical person since I use a tennis wheelchair. It's lighter weight, has a seatbelt, and has angled wheels that help me turn much quicker and be more agile on the court. There's also a fifth anti-tip wheel in the back to prevent falling. And although I'm not a pro athlete at the Paralympic level or even at a competitive level, tennis has helped me open up an entire community of people that have become my friends. Using a wheelchair doesn't automatically mean that someone is sedentary. In fact, playing tennis, even while using the wheelchair, improves my physical health, not just my social well-being. Everyone has the right to play and to feel active physically and in the community. So check out USTA at playtennis.com to learn why you should play tennis regardless of skill or ability. I went ice skating in my wheelchair and this is my review. I was skeptical, but I had heard from others that it could still be fun. I wasn't any pro before, but I do miss ice skating, so I was hoping people were right. There was a small corner of the rink that was slippier than the other parts, and that was genuinely pretty fun. But the rest of the rink felt pretty normal except for the lack of traction if you were turning, which is low-key what I was expecting. I do kind of wish that I had brought a power assist to really tear it up, but I wouldn't highly recommend this as a fun activity for other wheelchair users. But if you're with kids like I was, then I wouldn't be afraid to get on the ice with them either. I'll rate the experience 2.5 out of 5 stars. Also, slightly just because I got in for free, so that was nice.
Paraplegic sports continue to evolve, providing athletes with opportunities to compete, inspire, and redefine physical limits. These sports not only foster inclusivity and empowerment but also deliver some of the most exciting and high-performance competitions in the world. Whether recreational or professional, adaptive sports prove that determination and passion know no boundaries. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. A well-designed accessible apartment ensures smooth and effortless wheelchair navigation, allowing individuals to move freely and independently. Key features and adjustments make daily activities easier while enhancing comfort and functionality. Living in an accessible apartment empowers a paraplegic individual to maintain an active and fulfilling lifestyle. Whether cooking, working, or relaxing, thoughtful design elements make daily routines easier while promoting safety and convenience. With modern accessibility solutions, an apartment can truly feel like a comfortable and functional home. Welcome to my new home. Moving into a new apartment has been a game changer for my independence, and I'm excited to show you around. Said by Paraplegic Lady. Let's take a tour with her in this video as she turned her inaccessible home to been accessible as a paraplegic lady.
Is 1 week of moving into my first apartment. How I'm making my inaccessible apartment accessible to me. Starting with the kitchen. First up, the cabinets. There's plenty of storage, but I keep everything down low, including the dishes. As far as the microwave, we have 2, and that is because the one that came with the apartment, I can't really use safely. Exhibit A. Now, imagine that, but lifting something that's actually hot and heavy and not right on the edge in the center of the plate. Hence why we have a second microwave. I also don't let dishes pile up because it's less convenient for me to load the far side of the dishwasher because my reach is limited in a wheelchair. I know none of this is revolutionary and I'm not really changing the space, but rather changing the placement of things or the use of things that are already here. And while my new apartment complex offers wheelchair accessible units, this is not one of them. Sometimes accessibility can just be simple adjustments. It's not all about costly ramps, although we need and also love them.
How it goes from empty to slightly less empty. And since I'm ferociously independent, I did move everything myself, and that definitely isn't my boyfriend doing it all in the video. I was also working 40 hours this week for my second clinical rotation, also along with turning 21 and doing my first 10-mile race. So basically, I was severely busy, which is why the apartment was probably extra chaotic. I did the less labor-intensive chores that were still time-consuming, like unwrapping everything, putting it away, and cleaning everything because it was gross, okay? Most of this stuff was spent with me sitting on the edge of my wheelchair because I can't reach half of the stuff in the kitchen, but it's okay, we make it work. After 1 week, this is what our slightly less empty kitchen and living room looks like, featuring my $75 thrift store couch. We also have a balcony, which is really nice because it's a good size that I can turn around in. The bedroom is kind of shaped weird, so I had to check to see if I could fit around both sides of the bed, which I could, so we finished putting the bed on. I hope you don't mind that the TV is still sitting on the floor and there's a random piece of wood in there, but here's the rest of the bedroom and the closet. Again, kind of shaped weird, but it has a lot of space. And here's the bathroom. Overall, I feel like we're doing pretty well, but stay tuned for how I adapt things to be accessible. The apartment elevator went down, so this is how I spent the last day and a half. Normally, you might assume that the elevator broke, but it's actually receiving maintenance. Now, I haven't even been living here for a whole month, so I've never been in this situation before, so I went to talk to the leasing office about it.
Hello. Just wanted to make sure it was just those 2 days still.
What
Okay.
are you doing right now? Can I ask you this without
Yeah, no, you're good. My plan was to come here and make sure that it was only 2 days, and then just to make sure that is like as expedited as it could be. I'm gonna stay. I'm just going to be.
You're gonna be in the house for 2 days?
Yes. Thank you. Have a good day.
So, as you heard, I planned to just bunker down alone in my apartment because it wasn't a very long amount of time, luckily. I did miss class, but I wasn't too broke up about it because I got to sleep in with my kitty, I ate my nasty little healthy breakfast, and then for the rest of the day, I dyed my hair, eyebrows, curled my lashes, and stood for a couple hours to respond to emails and write an essay.
A well-designed paraplegic-friendly apartment allows for maximum independence, comfort, and accessibility, ensuring a fulfilling and stress-free living environment. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. As a paraplegic and proud wheelchair user, she's crafted a daily routine that reflects resilience, independence, and smart adaptation. From getting out of bed to preparing breakfast, each movement is thoughtful, efficient, and entirely her own. Here she share more insight.
This is my morning routine as a paraplegic. Since moving, I've had to get used to no longer having a pedestal sink I could roll next to. So I've just been pulling up parallel and leaning down as much as I can to keep the water spillage to a minimum. I was definitely spoiled with a pedestal sink in my parents' house, but I digress. Since I'm going out with my racing wheelchair, I did switch into some athletic clothes. I used to get dressed laying down when I was first paralyzed, but now I just do a back and forth shimmy to get stuff on seated in my wheelchair. I also spent 5 minutes getting my Vans on because my left foot has been swollen forever for some reason. But, you know, that's the life, so I had a little snacky and we were off. I signed up for my first marathon in 2.5 months, so I logged 8 miles today with an 8-minute pace. That meant that it was time to return and shower, of course, and I don't have a roll-in shower like I used to, so I use something called a tub transfer bench. Part of the chair sits outside the tub, allowing me to transfer to the edge and then move my legs inside the tub for stability. I grabbed a towel for me and a pad for my chair so I won't get the cushions soaking wet when I get out. I also use the trusty detachable shower head so I can move the water as needed since I cannot physically move myself. And this is what the shower curtain looks like from the inside. I basically just tuck it into the shower chair so I don't flood the floors, which I have done in the past. And by this time I had a migraine set in, so I used this little waterproof lamp instead of the overhead light, and then I cured my migraine by lying in bed and eventually napped. This is a wheelchair swing, which I made a video about a while ago. But after the video garnered some attention, someone wondered why I, and presumably other wheelchair users, can't just use a regular swing. For me personally, I would just fall completely off a normal swing because there's no foot support, it's unstable and moving, and there's no posture or back supports to support a weakened core, and I can't swing myself in it. They do make these kinds of swings which are meant for disabled kids or toddlers, but I still can't push myself, and it would be difficult and uncomfortable for some people to transfer into. Plus, I just look extremely goofy, and I probably get weird looks. Trust me, I wish normal swings would work since you can go higher and faster, but this accessible swing is a great alternative for the kids or adults that can't otherwise use a swing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
As a paraplegic, getting to drive wasn't just a goal, it was a powerful step toward reclaiming independence. She explained more about her getting to drive independently.
I got my license last year. A lot of people have asked more questions about how I can drive as a paraplegic, so here are the answers. Number 1, can I drive a manual? Apparently it is possible, but I would never do it. My 2 hands are already doing enough work driving an automatic car, since one hand is on the steering wheel and one hand is on the hand control lever, as well as operating any turn signals, wipers, pretty much anything. Number 2, can other people drive my car? And the answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, my car's default setting is to use the floor pedals. When the car is turned on, I have like 30 seconds to press a button, which makes the hand controls active. So normally when someone else is driving my car, they just turn the car on and drive it as normal. Number 3, how much did it cost? And this is my favorite part. It didn't cost me anything, luckily. Normally hand control lessons and the hand control installation cost thousands of dollars, but I got it covered through my state's vocational rehab and my medical insurance, which I'm told is a bit of a loophole and not usually an option. Number 4, can I drive any car? Yes, pretty much. Not every wheelchair user needs a ramp minivan. I am not driving a minivan. They are nice to have in the long term of preserving shoulder health, but they are very expensive and a lot less versatile.
Now, every drive is a victory. From errands to road trips, she navigates life with. Welcome to Spinal Cord Injury TV. On this channel we educate you and give review of people living with spinal cord injury, and also how they get to navigate their daily life activities. Her day starts with determination and a mindset built on independence. As a paraplegic and adaptive wheelchair user, her routine may look different, but it's filled with purpose, strength, and rhythm. She's crafted a routine that's not just functional, it's empowering. She shares her inspiring adaptive daily routine, cracking some tasks. As a paraplegic wheelchair user, cooking independently isn't just about preparing meals, it's about embracing her strength and creativity in daily life.
How I cook as a paraplegic. Some of it is the same as able-bodied people, of course, but some of it is modified for my abilities. For example, this is my cutting board. I use it for everything, like cutting, seasoning, transporting food waste, since it covers my entire lap, being relatively safe when I'm cutting and absorbing some heat, since the countertop is not a comfortable height for me. Next, I use an air fryer instead of the oven as much as possible since it's lightweight, so I can take it out and bring it closer to my level, which is a lot easier than dealing with a hot, heavy pan from the oven. Now, maybe the seasoning on top looked a little burnt, but it smelled good, so I'm just gonna call this blackened salmon. As for the Brussels, I'll be boiling them first, which I don't normally do, but I'm trying a new recipe, and I find it easier to fill up the pot with a pitcher once it's on the stove. But not before I set off the smoke alarm because they're so sensitive in my small apartment. So embarrassing. Anyways. Instead of draining the boiling water over the sink, I chose to remove the Brussels using a strainer since I don't want to deal with the boiling water. But of course, I also have to deal with my cat being bad. Anywho, I waited for the water to become cool to slide it across the counter to the sink to dump. This is because I have a rational fear of burning myself. My fear of dumping water on myself actually came true yesterday with cold water because I'm clumsy. So clearly, I have to be extra careful. I checked for heat on the bottom of the cutting board before putting it back down on my lap to finish the Brussels. And this is also because I have a history of burning my thigh from a hot plate. And then when those were done, I carefully removed them from the oven. And wham bam shabam, I've semi-successfully meal prepped without burning myself or the house down.
As a paraplegic, getting into the car is more than just mobility, it's independence. With steady focused determination, positioning her wheelchair for transfer. As a paraplegic, transferring into her car isn't just part of a routine, it's a symbol of freedom and self-reliance.
About these blue spots is that they're closer to the entrance of the door. This is for those that can't walk far, but it also works for people like me when it's raining because it takes me longer to push when my pushrooms get slippery. The less obvious but most important factor of disabled parking spots is something called an access aisle. This is the striped area on the side of the parking spot that is meant to allow room to load and unload mobility aids like wheelchairs, including the use of a ramp. This is because typical spots usually aren't wide enough for a wheelchair to fit in between in order to get in and out of our car. Disabled spots exist so we can equitably access the community or our apartments, and we really appreciate if you keep them clear.
Using a standing frame gives her freedom in a new form. It helps stretch her muscles, support her posture, and offer a different perspective on the world.
Vertical sitting. Doctors say it helps improve bowel and bladder health, bone density, and prevention of pressure injuries and joint contractures. But like many wheelchair users, I definitely did not get my daily prescribed hour of standing until last month. For me, the first thing I noticed was that my cat was extra pleased my wheelchair was left empty just for him. I also noticed I was extra locked in on my schoolwork. I basically did all of my schoolwork standing, so I'd be standing for 3 hours sometimes. Physically, however, the only thing I can attest to is the pressure relief and stretch. Sitting down most definitely exacerbates pain, so getting off helps a lot. And standing every day also replaced the feeling of needing to stretch for me because it basically had a similar effect. I did not notice any other physical gains related to bowel or bladder, unfortunately. So let me know what else I should try out. I am bored, so I may be accepting a bizarre lifestyle advice. Should I try to remain standing for longer? Hours, days, weeks, months, years?
Let's keep supporting the spinal cord injury community. Thank you for watching.
Please kindly click subscribe. Thanks for your support.